Everybody ask me how I know. I smile at them and say she told me so. Everybody ask me how I know. I smile at them and say she told me so. Everybody ask me how I know. I smile at them and say she told me so. Everybody, 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 everybody ask me how I know. I smile at them and say she told me so. I know. Everybody ask me how I know. I smile at them and say she told me so. I know. Everybody ask me how I know. I smile at them and say she told me so. I know.
Hey Nick, you still there?
Welcome back to Night Mind, friend.
Do you always have to do that thing?
Of course. So, what can I help you with in the dark tonight?
Well, I'm trying to get my mind off of the whole stalker thing, and I kind of figured that I'd ask my main man, you know, the champ of spooks, the master of darkness, to help me out with that.
Well, sure. What did you have in mind?
Well, we can either read this one comic I found on Catbox called Yosh, or we can watch that one movie with Slender Man, Always Watching.
2 hours later.
It's like 50 feet above his head.
Oh, okay, so of course he's called Phil, but
Yeah.
his friend is called Shiden. Shiden.
Oh my god.
You finally. Oh my god, are they seriously talking about Chobits?
I told you Chi was the cutest anime character ever. Roger, this might be the most weeaboo trash you may ever review.
And I'm ready to roll over my enemies. Feel the power, baby, just move back. Victory's mine, 'cause I got the fight, will, hustle, kill. Baby's the wall, I'm showing you who's real. There's everything in grill, 'cause I'm ready for the thrill. Hungry like a wolf, I'm going in for the kill.
This is the worst self-insert weeaboo trash that I have ever read. So what's a weeaboo? The short answer would be anything that you could attach my "you are not fucking Japanese" quote to with the utmost disdain. The long answer is someone who is obsessed with Japan, Japanese culture, anime, etc. and attempts to act as if they were Japanese, even though they are far from it. Now there's a right and wrong way of doing a story about Japanese culture. Actually, there's many right and many wrong ways of doing it. I won't bore you with the details, but let me just tell you that this right here, this is the wrong way. Now, because this comic has been going on since 2003 and is still ongoing and its quality is debatable, I figured why don't we just read it and see how far we can go before we eventually tap out. Yep, this is gonna be one of those reviews. Okay, I don't know what the fuck. Like, I normally never complain about the webpage of the comic being shit unless it's outstandingly shitty, like with 30 High, and that seems to be the case here as well. First of all, here's what happens when you try to browse through this shit on Google Chrome. And then, here's what happens when you try to read this garbage on an iPad.
Shut up and turn in your work, but what? We literally jumped over 1,700 pages in. Now what? What? What's this? Who are you?
Where are we? This is page 1743. What page were we on before? I don't recall. 1743. Oh, and now it jumped ahead. Oh, so that was the one we were on before. Okay. Now it skipped over to the same page we were just on. Perfect. And I'm not the only one having a hard time reading this shit for other reasons than it being garbage. This webpage is just horribly set up. Like, what the fuck, man? I had to dust off and use my freaking Firefox to read this. Trust me, Philip, your comic isn't good enough to make it so anyone will want to trick through this to read it. Unless they're an asshole reviewer. Like me. So we finally begin with comic 1, and okay, I can see what we are working with here. This art isn't too bad. The shading's a little rough and the line art could use some work, but like a Catholic priest I once knew used to say, hey, I've had worse. So we see this dude at his computer and it seems like he's going to be making a webcomic, but he doesn't want to base it on his real life, because that would apparently be too boring for anyone to read. That's when he's interrupted by a penguin saying Jello and some furry chick exclaiming Phil, followed by her running up to him and saying that Pen, the penguin, used all the Pepsi to make Jello. So there are a few things that I'm having some issues with. 1. Hi, Phil. So this is a self-insert comic, huh? You know, Leoyan and Niccone at least used their persona names, and it wasn't downright them and their adventures, but rather an avatar of sorts. I mean, Niccone is obviously not a cat, and Leoyan is not handsome. But you are now gonna depict yourself in a comic, which is fine I suppose, but you're also going to say that this is your normal real life? Oh, this is going to be hilarious later on. Trust me. 2. So, you got a penguin called Pen.
You know what the word on the streets is, dog? The word on the streets is that you a bitch. What's up with that, man?
And I believe here we now have a big problem with this comic, at least the early years of it, but I'll get into that more later. 3. You also got a cat girl named Kate living with you. Again, real life, but sure, I'm just gonna take my brain out of my skull so I don't end up questioning this. Benefit of the doubt, friend. 4. The punchline of this strip is that Pen, the penguin who can apparently talk, has used all of Phil's Pepsi to make Jello. Now, Phil, baby doll, I like you, but maybe you should try redoing the first page here more than you already have. This is what is supposed to reel people in. There's nothing to catch interest here, nor anything funny, if that's what you're going for. I can't honestly tell. Now, I will be fair before we move on. Phil has himself stated that his early work is not that good, but he is kinda keeping it there so people can see how he has grown, which I'm all for. The problem is, however, that if it was only the art, then it wouldn't be an issue, but this is also about the story and the plot, and dude, the stuff you establish now will have to carry the entire story later on. If you don't have a good base, that shit will just wobble and eventually fall over. It's like making a house of cards in a bouncy castle. So, Phil wants to go out and get some more Pepsi, seeing Pen used it all for Jello. But just as he's about to head out, Kate comes over and hands Phil his katana, to which Phil replies, "Oh, thanks! I don't know how I would have crossed the road without it." So, let's for now just overlook the capitalized letters that just seems to pop forth at random, and instead address the last frame. Why are you not able to cross the road without a katana? Why do you have a katana? Why is it so important that you have a katana with you when you go out that Kate will actively stop you from exiting the house? And again, for what reason would you need a katana to cross a road? You just need to look both ways and then use your legs to carry you over to the other side. Maybe he lives in Final Fantasy Land, where you have to have a weapon on you when you go out and do menial tasks. Oh wait, real life, I forgot. So outside, Phil is singing some song from .hack, and then something happens. After thinking long and hard about it, I reached the conclusion that a car is driving up and is ramming into Phil. Good thing he had that katana with him to prevent him from accidents such as this. Anyway, after being run over, we see him looking at a Pepsi logo. Wait, what about the car? Are we still outside? All things point to Phil now being in a store, but... okay, so I guess we're just moving on from that car then. I'm glad we could experience that so we can use the knowledge when Phil is being held up by a battle mech when buying Pepsi. You know? Real life. So, the driver of the mech is a guy called Tom who's using the battle mech to stop a Pepsi thief. It turns out that the penguin, Pen, has stolen all the Pepsi and Phil now has to pay for it. I'm just gonna come out and say that if you lose 2 months of Pepsi supplies to a motherfucking penguin, you deserve to have it stolen. Also, Pen is now with Phil, I guess. We move back to Phil's home where Kate is playing some Final Fantasy XI, you know, that shit that hardly even worked. And upon being called a noob, she apparently overrides the PvP program and is thus able to send her arm through the screen and kill the dude on the other side. Now, if you're like me, you might just be a gullible idiot and think, oh, okay, this is interesting. Phil is living together with a homicidal maniac who can kill people through video games. And while it is true that he's living with a homicidal maniac, it's not Kate, and it doesn't kill through super terrible MMOs. Nope, it's Pen. So, Phil comes home and questions why Kate is wearing his shirt all of a sudden. I'm guessing we're supposed to know what the hell this print is. The reason why Kate is suddenly wearing Phil's shirt is because apparently she killed the dude so hard through the screen that his blood ended up in Phil's home. All this from being called a noob, I might add. Also, gotta give credit where it's due. This frame where Pen saying bleach only hides the blood, that's fucking funny. But, you know, I'll be shitting some more on this comic and then some ass biscuit in the future will completely disregard that one compliment I gave it and just, you know, shit all over me. So why even try? What happens next is that Pen is trying to kill Phil. Why? No idea. And he apparently hired professional ninjas to do his work for him. After that, he acts like he passed out while Phil notices that arrows have been stuck into his kitchen counter with "You will die" pointed away from him.
You
Did he just give him a message?
completely missed, you shit.
No, he gave him a message.
What a good camera angle. Have you noticed that like every single game that is survival horror-y pretty much has some variation of the Resident Evil 1 mansion like main hallway?
Most, if not all.
Like it's
Wow.
I found a note.
See, he doesn't try to kill you at all.
I hope it's gonna be like, yo, I'm an ninja.
Oh my god! Oh my god, makes no sense!
After that, we see Kate making Jello, and seriously, what the fuck is up with this comic's odd fascination with Jello and Pepsi? Like, literally every strip besides 3 up to this point has had either Jello or Pepsi in it to some extent. Anyway, Phil asks Kate about her family and is in turn thrown out of the window.
Okay, so the next page.
Why does he... Like, all he's doing is he's asking about her family.
Yeah.
And now the penguin is doing construction work.
Yeah, now the penguin's doing construction work. Oh, and again with the fucking Jello. Wait, some advice. Don't ask Kate about her past. How do you know? How do you know that's what happened?
No, fuck that. You're a penguin. How are you able to do construction work?
Okay, but no, seriously. Let's think about this for a moment.
No, I don't want
Phil is still on the ground, right?
Yeah.
We can detect that because he's just getting up at face level with the penguin. His head is bleeding, but the penguin was already outside with a construction hat, ready to put the window into place. So now the penguin is a psychic.
So a psychic, murderous, seemingly Japanese penguin
that can talk and can hear conversations up through glass windows like 50 feet above his head.
After that, we see Phil getting a call from his friend Sheedan, and by now you should have noticed something very important. This comic has no plot. It's just jumping all over the place with what I can only assume is something Phil thought was funny at the time. Anyway, Shidan just saw Chobits, try saying that 3 times in a row, and is angry that Phil wants to get in there with Chi because he is already living with a cute cat girl. And we then see that Shidan has an almost disturbing fascination with Chi. And really, there's only one thing Shidan should know about all of this. Turn the beat back!
Your waifu is it? Your waifu is
Next page, we see Phil has put a frame around his comic, which for all intents and purposes looks nice and gives the comic a more professional look. But then you got this Yosh thing that just looks super dumb. Anyway, on this page, Phil, who's totally not a self-insert, is trying to draw but can't find any inspiration, all while Pen and his gang of thugs are walking around in front of them, brandishing everything from bombs to guns to swords. What the fuck? This is obviously not addressed, and we move on to the next page. You will see why them not addressing it is super retarded later on. On the next page, Phil is being woken up by Kate, who is now in a schoolgirl uniform because she's going to a convention. Of course, Phil follows, and that looks a lot like Max from the lounge. Anyway, they bump into Shidan, who's holding a girl cosplaying as Chi from Chobits against her will. Remember kids, cosplay is not consent. Shidan then tries to kill Phil so he can have Chi all to himself. However, because Phil has watched a bunch of anime, he's able to dodge all of Shidan's attacks.
You dodged all 245 attacks. Where did you learn to move like that?
A little bit of Kenshin, Naruto, stuff like that.
Oh my god, that's the best voice ever! In the meantime, some girl is flipping her shit over how real Kate looks, which I can only assume is how much like a real cat girl she looks. Cause there's no way in fucking hell this looks anywhere near realistic. And if it is that she looks like a real cat girl, that will become super retarded later on. The comic moves on to showing Phil dropping a drawing he has made of Sephiroth in a woman's dress, to which a Sephiroth cosplayer comes up and looks at Phil. I guess this is supposed to look menacing, but really Sephiroth just looks really tired here. Also, please don't kill me. This is one of those, isn't it? Following the trend of no strip having any importance, we move on to seeing how a bunch of girls are flipping out about Pen despite him going, "All shall bow before me!" And this is where I gotta agree with Nick, who I first experienced this comic with. Pen is Stewie Griffin.
What is this penguin supposed to be, Stewie Griffin?
You know, everyone keeps hearing and not hearing what he's saying. No one takes him serious despite being a legit threat, and his murderous attempts are supposed to be funny and endearing. And just like Family Guy, it fails in every aspect of this. But anyway, skipping ahead a little cause nothing really happens, because Phil's poor looking phone has run out of battery, he can't call a cab, and Pen and Kate doesn't exactly seem like they're up for walking. For some odd reason, the next page has what I can only assume are timestamps on them, as Phil finds a dude who'll rent him a chocobo for $371. Again, real life. Even Phil is bringing this up, saying, "I've been thinking, isn't it a bit strange that we can rent a chocobo? I mean, chocobos aren't even real." They don't, bother to actually address this, and they finally get home. Kate goes to change clothes, and Phil suddenly obtains the summon chocobo materia. Don't question this, cause I've sure as fuck given up. And he goes to tell Kate who's changing clothes, and of course he drops in on her changing, he gets smacked, and is called a baka. I swear, this is fucking Weeaboo Prime Deluxe. So to be nice to this comic, let's jump ahead a little, because I can keep just poking fun at all the things that don't make sense with this incoherent storyline all I want, but that'd be unfair. So on page 33, the comic actually starts developing a plot when a Chobit shows up outside his door with an axe. Okay, this needs to be addressed now. A thing we've already seen, and a thing you will see far more of in the future, is that Phil loves to dress his characters up in various cosplay, using it as a reference to things he likes, such as this chick here from Chobits, right? Right. The problem is though that he doesn't deviate from this. He just puts a character in this cosplay design and then he just runs with it, turning that design into his own. Like, later on, you'll see a dude dressed up as Vast the Stampede from Trigon, and he just keeps that look all the way through the comic, cause fuck me, I guess that's just how he's designed now. Which unfortunately leads us to another thing. The rest of this comic. So, the Chobits set out to kill Phil, but is stopped when Tom appears, who is now suddenly a ninja, and has discarded his battle mech. And just because Tom blocked the axe with the back of his hand like a pro, the Chobit just, gives up. Also, it should be mentioned, not even Tom knows why the fuck he's here either. So, the Chobit malfunctions and then just starts calling people One-chan, Oni-chan, and Tom-kun. Oh, this is cringe levels of weeb. And this is coming from a dude who has an entire wall of Persona and Gurren Lagann, by the way. So, apparently the Chobit Mio falls in love with Tom now. Why? So, they decide to go buy Mio some new clothes. Let's just pause and ask ourselves a few questions. Why? Why are you buying her clothes? What's wrong with the clothes she had before? Why are you buying her clothes in the first place? She just tried to kill you. Why are you not asking her who sent her to kill you? Why do you not restrain her so she doesn't try and kill you again? Why did she suddenly malfunction? Why is she suddenly wearing Kate's clothes? All of this isn't answered as we move on to the next page where Mio has gotten herself some new clothes. It turns out that all of this is being watched by someone in a command center of sorts. You guys do know that if they manage to follow up on this weeaboo trash is by default better than Las Lindas. So, I hate throwing words such as plagiarism around. It's a serious claim to throw around willy-nilly. So I'm not gonna say that Phil here steals jokes and ideas everywhere, like a dude in Skyrim suddenly needing a little extra gold. What I am gonna say is that someone, who isn't me, read through this and saw jokes or concepts straight up lifted out from not just comics and mangas, but also other webcomics. The person who read this, who wasn't me, especially liked where Phil made a Dead Phil Day strip, a thing completely similar to Dead Pyro Day from Mega Tokyo, which Fred Gallagher used for when he couldn't finish a comic on time for whatever reason. It wouldn't be nearly as bad here if it wasn't because there's arguably put more work into this Dead Phil Day than there has been on any of the other pages surrounding it. The person, who's a handsome bastard I assure you, also caught on to a joke that was so similar to an almost identical scenario in questionable content, in which a man from the government comes and tases the owner of something which he wants with a stun gun. And don't even get this person started on what you might find if you compare Phil's early designs with Keitaro from Love Hina. So, after being stunned by the stun gun, the guy from the government grabs Mio and leaves with her. If you ask why no one stops him, it's because Kate apparently has a bad shoulder pain, Tom fucked off, and Pen is tied up. It should be stated that I've at this point not skipped a single frame or page where anything I brought up is explained, by the way. So they go to retrieve Mio, but not before putting on their battle suits. None of the suit works, it would seem, and we're meant to just forgive and forget that Phil just has a mech and battle suits laying around. They then have a briefing about where the target is, and I'm just sitting here thinking, wouldn't it be much more efficient to just give chase after the dude immediately? I mean, he's pulling along a woman who's resisting and slowing him down. Anyway, when Phil asks how Pen knows that the man from the government will take Mio to the abandoned military base, he's shot with a tranquilizer. Not a real bullet, which would have ended Pen's mission then and there, but oh well. Also, if you just bet it with your friend that it won't be explained how Pen knows this stuff, make him pay up, because nope, of course it isn't. I suppose it's too late to mention how all of this is super retarded. It turns out that all of this is orchestrated by this dude. Oh no! Do we know him? He looks like everyone else we've seen thus far. And he's doing this because Phil used up 80% of his cell phone minutes. Oh my god! We find all of this out while the man from the government, who's not from the government after all, is getting team killed in Rainbow Six free. Son of a bitch! How many JoJo references can I possibly put into one review? Having made their way into the base thanks to some explosives that Pen brought with him, they then start checking the different doors to find Mio. One of such is a tentacle monster that grabs Phil, and I think we all know what happens next.
What gave you the idea that I molest people?
Well, you are a tentacle monster.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing. I'm a tentacle monster. That doesn't mean I automatically molest people, and even if I did, I would want to fuck other tentacle monsters. Do you even have the slightest idea of how procreation and sex drive work?
That's it. Get over here and molest
What
me.
is wrong with you?
So after this, they have this weird page about how Phil's perspectives are terrible. And Phil just walks up like nothing happened, saying Craig, who I imagine is the tentacle monster, just wanted an opinion on an anime. And while they're discussing this, Kate just, smacks the dude who was not from the government with a hammer, I think, and rescues Mio. Again, this is one of those cases where you have to ponder just what you're supposed to take as a joke and what is actually happening. So the not government guy throws some pencils after Phil that Tom, for some odd reason, comes out of nowhere and decides to stop with a kunai. Wait. Is that an asterisk? You're seriously going to explain what a kunai is? And it's not even to, flaunt information such as that a kunai is derived from a trowel or anything. It's just, this is a dagger. Like, why the fuck would you need to point that out? We see it thrown and stuck in Phil's chest. I think we can guess it's a dagger, dude. And it's so weird, because this doesn't happen again. And just, why the fuck is there now suddenly a random medic guy? Where was he before? Did Kate, Pen and Phil bring him along? If not, isn't he working for the enemy? Why is he tending to Phil? What's he looking at anyway? Shouldn't he be tending to Phil's chest with the kunai in it? Guys, I'm starting to see a pattern in Catbox comics. You apply logic, and the shit just blows up. Phil ends up at the hospital, and we have this weird quote here mentioning that not everything is going to be poops and giggles in this comic. And before we continue, how many of you have watched Elfen Lied? All of you? Alright. Now I'm not saying anything, but the dude I know is, but just keep that in mind as we trek through this garbage. So when Kate was 9, she just suddenly started sprouting cat ears, patterns, and a tail. Because the parents are so horribly written that saying they are one-dimensional would be a compliment, they immediately start scorning their own daughter and kicks her out.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Kate goes on to explain how all this happened all over the world and no one cared. I'm sorry, what? Excuse me? Is this thing on? You're not coming through clearly, Webcomic. For a moment there, it sounded like you said no one cared about people just started sprouting cat ears. And from this we can now establish that this happened all over the fucking world. Well, what the fuck was up with that little girl who couldn't believe her eyes when she saw Kate? Shouldn't this be normal, that there's cat people walking around? Anyway, Kate continues explaining, people said things like there aren't humans, so I treat them like they are. They're just freaks. They were never human in the first place. Except they weren't born like this. They got altered out of fucking nowhere. Everyone was quite literally human before this. You know this. This is easy knowledge. Go on Ask Yahoo or Wikipedia and you'll find this shit out. Shit, I'm half certain there's an 11-year-old with a shaky phone cam and a bad microphone on YouTube who'll explain this shit to you. Anyway, Kate then talks about how she had to go to school, and does this purple-haired girl with a beanie to hide something on her head seem familiar? Ring any bells? Also, this may just be me, but so far this comic has been doing a lot of references to a ton of manga and anime, right? And I personally think that all of them are hot garbage. That includes Elfen Lied. My email is right here waiting for your hate mail. So, because Phil saw that one of the strongest scenes in Elfen Lied is where the kids are huge dicks, he decided to have this chick from Naruto here be equally as big a cunt. Hey Kate, I read all about cat girls this weekend. Wow, there must have been a lot to learn about a whole new fucking species if a grade schooler can chuck through all that shit in a weekend. Maybe she found that 11-year-old on YouTube. Did you know that all cat girls are sluts? It's funny since a guy will never go near you. So, What? She's a slut without any men? Unless you're insinuating her to be a lesbian, that's a fucking horrible diss. It's like when Miles calls Taffy a whore. There's certain requirements you gotta fulfill to unlock the slut class.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Luckily, this flashback doesn't end with a puppy getting killed with a lamp and a bunch of kids smeared all over the walls, but instead it ends with Kate going online and thus found by someone who has a huge fascination with cat girls. And in case you think I've been too big of a dick and said this is a self-insert thus far, please note that at the end here, Phil is addressing himself as Phil Sage, and then something, probably Brown, seeing that's his full fucking name. And also, why the fuck is there a topic called Kate is a freak under the anime board? Wouldn't this be better fit for a discussion board? Or maybe a picture board? Anyway, Kate's been saying this out loud all along, and of course Phil wakes up hearing this entire thing. Kate doesn't understand why he's awake, seeing his medical chart says he was in a coma from a kunai to the heart. Phil then explains that, "That's the guy next to me. He was the random medic guy that showed up, with exclamation point and hyphen combo for some odd reason. He made a stupid ninja joke in front of Tom." And finishes off with, "Haha, what an idiot." Ha! He's dead! Let's ridicule him some more. I envy the shit out of him. Also, why the fuck did Phil's chart say he was the guy in a coma? That's a pretty huge slip up. And didn't it seem like Kate had visited Phil before now, seeing how calm and cool she was about him laying there? Cool enough to just start dropping info dumps and monologues all over? Does this mean that every time she visited Phil just pretended to be asleep? Moving on, cause obviously none of this is explained, Kate says that Phil should be fine in a few days, and Miu follows up with saying, as long as no one tries to kill Phil, which immediately leads us to a shot of Pen trying to feed Phil poisoned pudding. Again, everyone can see Pen. Everyone can hear and understand what he says, but no one has caught on yet. These people are fucking retarded. And then this guy appears. I don't fucking know who this is supposed to be. Like, he loves robot chicks so much that he's willing to put it on a t-shirt, so it could be Shiden, but it could also be Tom. It could also be someone completely new, seeing neither of the two mentioned before wore sunglasses. With the art like this, it's honestly hard to tell. Anyway, ultimately it doesn't matter, as Ethan, Phil's brother, punches the ninja guy so hard that he... I don't know, I guess he just flew across the room and is actually still there for the rest of this scene. Phil asks Ethan why he's not at school, and Ethan replies it's because it's summer, to which Phil asks, "What's with the long sleeve shirt then?" Because it has never been cold during the summer. Are you fucking me with these jokes? It turns out that the person who had hired the guy from the government, who was not from the government after all, was Ethan, because he wanted to retrieve Mio. Why? No one knows. Plot, I guess. It turns out that Ethan also wants to get in there with Kate and asks her out for lunch, to which Kate replies, "Okay." This is enough to make Phil super suicidal and get up into the window.
Do a flip!
Why the fuck are you weepy? Did you make a move on Kate? Have you had ample time to do it in? If you haven't tried to do anything, you can't very well fucking be upset that someone doesn't pussyfoot around and makes a move. Anyway, our wishes come true as Phil is actually pushed out of the window by... this dude. Wait, so he did actually just get knocked out in the corner of the room? Where's his scarf? No, wait. That dude had black hair. This dude has white. So is this Ethan? Did Ethan just try and kill his own brother? And I say try, cause despite falling from the 9th floor all the way down to the hard pavement downstairs unhindered, Phil just walks it off. So, a kunai going an inch into his chest puts him in a hospital, but falling from the 9th floor of a building hardly phases him. His clothes, his skin, nothing is even dirty. Shit, his hair is not even buttered. What are you, fucking Snow from Final Fantasy 13? Did you also have a whiny little cunt's mom to break your fall? The only addressing we get of this entire thing is Phil questioning whether or not he can or cannot die. And then the comic moves on. Also, for all intents and purposes, he seems just fine now. Didn't he have to stay hospitalized? Also, why is he suddenly in jeans and a t-shirt when he before was in what I can only assume are hospital scrubs? Miu points Phil towards Chili's, where Kate and Ethan went. At Chili's, there's 2 robot chicks who are undercover and out to kill Phil, who they mistake Ethan for. Why are they here? Who are they? Why are they out to kill Phil? And this robot chick here also has this thought. And why did he program me with this accent? Who? Who programmed you with an accent? And what accent? I had to read her sentence 4 times before I caught on to what could be considered an accent. Y'all. And it's not even done right. It's Y''ALL. The apostrophe will always work as a replacement for other words. Hence why your is short for you are, because the apostrophe serves as a replacement for the space between the 2 words and an A. And oh my god, I'm teaching Americans about their own fucking language again. Like, what the fuck? The Chobit, whose name turns out to be Nami, is about to kill Ethan, but stops when she hears Kate ask how old Ethan is. Nami returns to the other robot girl and explains that Ethan is not Phil, and then starts wondering why they even have emotions. Why? Why are you pondering that? Are you feeling a surge of emotions right now? Why? It turns out Nami is angry because she's thinking of her master, who's Largo. That's just fucking Largo from Megatokyo. No, Riser, that's Eden who wants Phil dead because he wants to stick his dick inside a robo chick. No, fuck that, fuck you, this is Largo! And seriously? Okay, I kinda sorta suspected it to be Shiden who was behind the assassination attempts on Phil, but only because he was the only one connected to robot girls. But fucking why? Why is he out to kill Phil? Because of the phone credit? If you got enough money to make a small army out of robot girls, you surely must have enough money to buy phone credit, you butts! So, Phil appears and Nami distracts him by telling him to look somewhere. In the meantime, the other girl is emptying her gun at him and is then shaking Shiden's hand. What? I get that it's supposed to symbolize that Shiden will fall for her when she shoots Phil, which she doesn't do because this is all a daydream. But you do know both people need to have both their hands up for this thing to look like the thing you're going for, right? This more looks like that one scene from The Predator.
Shiden! You son of a bitch!
The robot girl is so distracted with her daydream that she fails to shoot Phil, but Nami snaps her out of it, explaining to her that Shiden likes girls with short hair. God forbid she could just cut her hair, but oh well. There's a vacation trip from Phil in which he spells y'all wrong again, and we then move on to Phil inviting Ethan to an anime convention where they can cosplay. The 2 robot girls who got fired and who are just giving up on killing Phil now, I suppose, decide to go to the con as well. If you might say that it's because they can't Phil out in the public daylight or in front of other people and are thus biding their time, what the fuck was the plan earlier then? And why the fuck would they wait until a con where there'll literally be over 100 times more than you can fit into Chili's? And believe it or not, I actually think this arc is finished. Because we get one of those weird dumb previews for the next coming episodes.
Can Goku outsmart the diabolical Frieza and avoid this final attack? Tune in for the next exciting episode of Dragon Ball Z!
It just struck me that at the beginning of this video, I said that I would cover as much of this weeaboo trash as I could possibly take. You would think I learned at some point not to do this kind of stuff to myself. I'm not a clever man.
Yeah, you can put the tagline, the comic that broke Nick Nocturne.
The comic that broke Nick Nocturne. And you know, considering the stuff you're covering on your channel, that's quite an endeavor.
Oh, I can handle cannibals, murderous psychopaths, torture, habit. But this I can't handle. Oh man.
This is too real.
Remind me why we did this again?
Because the alternative was watching, always watching?
Well, next time I might actually go with always watching.
Well, hold on, I think I just got mail.
What is it?
I don't know. There's some kind of letter and A pin.
A pin? What kind?
I don't know.
So I hope you guys are ready, cause we're doing it again. Another page by page review. This will be running every other episode, so you will get one episode where I'm doing this. The next will be a typical review, then back to this, and so on and so forth. Anyway, let's talk about the amazing people who backed up this episode. First of all, we got Nights to Dreams. Nights is working on Fractures, in which a young fox boy named DeLorean is trying to take care of his closest friend Talaris, a ghostly creature simply known as a tethered soul. He will do whatever it takes to keep them from falling apart, even at an expense that will make him question everything. Sounds really interesting and the art is amazing, go check it out. Scott Fraser. You guys know what this dude does. Like, this is one of the OGs of the webcomic relief. Scott Fraser is working on Star Warriors, a very interesting, very dramatic, furry comic about wishes and what happens when they come true. Nick Nocturne. Nick is working on Nightmine, and when he's not helping me doing dumb videos, he's making a far better show on his own channel where he's covering horror stories you'll find on YouTube. It's really well done. Like, I could only hope to be as good as presenting stuff as Nick here is. Go check it out, it's amazing. Next up is Shiv, a newcomer to the Webcomic Relief's Patreon. Shiv is working on Key to My Heart, which is a series about CJ the cat and Shiv the Toon Chimera as they discover what it's like to be roommates, and as CJ tries to win Shiv's heart. It's cute, it's adorable, go check it out. Lashandra Ortiz. Once again, I don't know what Lashandra does. She hasn't gotten back to me yet, so all I can say is that once I find out, you will find it in the description below what exactly she is doing. But for now, thank you for supporting the show. Next up is Jake. Jake is working on Advocate. Did you guys check it out after my latest webcomic relief? Did you help, shaping up how this universe is going to be like and what the story is going to be? Because you can do that. Just go and check out this comic and you actually have an input on how it, runs. So go check it out. Angel Povedano Ruiz. Angel is working on Destined Flames and you can now find his comic on Taptastic. It's a very interesting fantasy action-y comic and I strongly recommend that you go check it out. Nana Newcomb. Nana has once more put her comic on hole because she's moving, and as such she kind of like she could use some money for moving expenses and stuff. So if you would like to do it, you can go to either her Tumblr or her DeviantArt and you can ask for commissions. I really love this girl's art, and she's grown to become even better than when she started first pledging to the show. Go check it out. Alex J. Alex J is another of the old school pledges for the webcomic relief, and she is working on Dev's My Bitch. Dev's My Bitch is a very unique, very different and very well told story about how Dev more or less becomes a work for the Grim Reapers, and you know how they deal with like their job. Go check it out. Cloudy Days. Cloudy is working on Overcast, but that's not what we're pushing today. Today we're pushing something that Cloudy himself has been pushing for the longest time, which is a comic known as Anarchy Dreamers by Emily Ree. I have myself bought a physical copy of this along with pins and stuff, and I can warmly recommend that you go check this out. It's colorful, it's interesting, and it's really unique. Go check it out. Shane Asher. Shane Asher is working on Strays of Seravia, a superhero furry comic. It is on hold for now, while we wait for some more followers to go and follow the comic. Really, like, do me a solid, go check it out. If you like it, suggest it to your friends, because I personally really like it. And in the meantime, if you want to check out more of Shane's stuff, he's currently making Sonic Combat, in which he is making Sonic characters into Mortal Kombat characters. Like, that basically writes itself. Go check it out. And then we got Agent Cheshire, Nicholas Knudsen, Jay Lee, Brittany Williamson, Alistair Vane, Kawai Lee, Ghostlight Studio, Lishi Shiro, Gage, Zachary Seligson, Shannon TJ, and Vivid Publishing. If you want to support the show, you can do so on Patreon. Just go to www.patreon.com/Riser with 2 eyes. You can pledge any amount you want, and the money will first be withdrawn once the episode comes out. So you're not paying for me just sitting around playing Street Fighter or anything. You're paying per video. You don't have to pay, but everything is extremely appreciated, and the more you pay, the more cool stuff you get. If you don't want to pay any money to the show, well, you don't have to. At least think about liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing the video with your friends. If you don't want to do that, well, at least thank you for watching it till the end, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.